What is going on, everybody? So, welcome to another edition of the Between the Lines podcast. Joining me right now is my other good co-host, Coach Dante, and Miss Key in the building. What is going on with you guys?
Y'all can't have a party without me. My bad. I had to get a cookie. I'm sorry. We sponsored by Grandma's Cookies today, y'all. Okay, Grandma's Cookies.
Let's be real. One of my favorite brand of cookies. I love Grandma's cookies. But
I should have got me a brewski. I should have got me a brewski. That's that Dr. Pepper.
So today we actually have a special guest joining us. Mets Talk with Hayden. What's going on, my guy?
The Mets Talk.
So honestly, I'll say this. I mean, it's good to be back for doing this. After the World Series, and let's be real, stuck with the 99-day goddamn lockout, which is pretty much this. I thought this show was going to be dead on the the way that how the lockout is going. So it really is good to be back. But man, free agency got on to a hot start to start the new year. So kind of get your guys' thoughts on that a little bit.
Free agency. I mean, the biggest pretty much signing. Astros lost Carlos Correa pretty much to the Minnesota Twins, but we got a good young prospect in Pena. In Pena, he's pretty good. He can hit, he can field as well. It's going to be interesting to see what we got at the center field position. Also, we do have Jake Myers. We can bring Jose Siri up, who's very well for us. Astros still going to be balanced all around. Remember, they lost George Springer. They still was able to make the World Series. Even with average pitching, we were still able to make the World Series. And I think the Astros are going to be fine. Not going to say we're going to make the World Series this year, but I definitely think we're going to be a playoff team. I definitely still think we in the AL West, we're still going to be a favorite. Now that the Oakland A's, they're a farm system team now. They are rebuilding now, and now Texas Rangers, they made some pretty good moves. How about them? Marcus Semien, Kyle Seager, they gave
Corey Seager, and then they also got who else is picked up? I can't remember.
We got Brad Miller, I believe.
Miller, God damn it, Texas.
Brad Miller. And like I said, offseason just been crazy, guys. And the Phillies making the moves too. How about the Phillies making some good moves over there as well? So
goddamn time.
There should be no excuses for Philadelphia. But Atlanta and Philadelphia, that look like that's going to be a two-team race right there.
I would highly disagree with that, Dante. I think it's going to be a three-team race.
Like I say,
the Mets guy right here.
I see the Mets guy, but like I say again, the way they fell apart in the regular season, Matt Olson, them guys getting better. Them getting better. I know they lost Jorge Soler. He's a strikeout machine, but he does hit for power. But I still think it's gonna be a two-team race between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. Man, I think those two teams would just be that good, probably be that good than the Mets right now. I think the Mets will be competitive, though. I still think they will be competitive.
And this is what I think too. Like as soon as before I was going to sleep at 2:00 in the morning, and when I see, I was like, am I dreaming of this right now? Is Carlos Correa really signed with the fucking Twins? It's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, for only 3 years though. I was like, that's interesting.
Because
and
it's on the NFL type of contract where you can have an opt out after the first 2 seasons, an opt out per season. Now we come to find out later today that Trevor Story is now a Boston joining Boston.
It's about to get crazy.
I think this entire season is going to get crazy. So I'm going to get your guys' thoughts on Trevor Story going to Boston.
Go ahead, Mets. I'm going to let Mets speak up. I'm going to let Mets speak
Absolutely.
up. Yes.
Yeah, well, listen, the Boston move for Trevor Story is huge. As of right now, we know that that left side of the infield defensively is pretty nice. I mean, you have Rafael Devers, you have Alexander Bogaerts. The shortstop market this offseason was crazy. Obviously, prior, you were supposed to have Lindor, but that the Mets extended him. You had Baez, you had Story, you had Cray. It was filled. You had Semien, arguably, was going on the market as a shortstop because they make more money. So realistically, I mean, the shortstop market was insane. Overall, I think it's a solid move for Boston. Overall, what if it maybe, that he's probably going to wind up batting fifth in that lineup because you have so much depth, from that leadoff spot to the fifth spot. Interesting what they're going to do is, are they going to put him at second? Are they willing to do what the Blue Jays did with Marcus Semien? The Blue Jays, They put Simeon at second, and he was a natural shortstop. He exploded. And I'm not talking offensively. I'm talking defensively. All the stats, DRS, OAA, UZR. Awesome. So that's the thing. Hopefully Trevor Story can fit into that same category of Simeon by sliding from short to second, because it's a different position. I mean, it's definitely, opposite sides of the field, but, it's to an extent a similar and different position. So really interesting move that Chaim Bloom really wanted to blow up the offseason, and I guess kind of put the cherry on top. I realistically thought that if you were to ask me when the offseason started, who would be the most likely fit for Boston? Would it be a guy like Seiya Suzuki? Would it be a guy like Trevor Story? I honestly thought they were done out of the shortstop market. I know the Texas Rangers, they went after two of the biggest shortstop guys. I mean, obviously they'll probably put Simeon most likely at second. I mean, I don't think they're going to address third at all. But I could have even saw, honestly, Trevor Story going to the Rangers, and maybe they put him at third. Moved him over, something like that. Maybe the Astros, obviously, he'd be much cheaper than what a long-term agreement would have been with Correa. So there were so many suitable picks for Story, but honestly, I think Fenway would be the best place for him to play in Boston with the Red Sox. Say what you want about, the Coors effect, the numbers are going to go down. He still has above average offensive production outside of Coors Field. And I just think Boston would be a great place for him to, expand his career, on a winning team. I mean, the Rockies, don't even talk about Chris Bryant with them. But overall, that organization is a disaster. I mean, I don't like to come on here and trash talk teams. I respect them all, but it just bothers me when teams, like the Rockies and the Nationals, just don't want to win. They don't want to win, and they just say, you know what, we're going to pick up a couple guys, in the off season. Damn it, we're 25 games under at the deadline. Let's send them away. That's what a lot of these teams do. So, really honestly, but this isn't the Rockies talk. We're obviously talking more Trevor Story. But yeah, like I said, honestly, good that he's on a winning team. I mean, he hasn't been to the playoffs since 2018 in the wild card. And even then, they got destroyed in the division round. So really good to see Story on a winning team where he could shed his talent in October.
Definitely. Chris Bryant going to be smacking some home runs out there, because y'all all know how
Coors Field
is and that dense air. He's gonna be smacking everything over there. But yeah,
and it's just like, and I think Hayden. I mean, and look, I'll say this: other than 2018, like they haven't really been that deep, really good since the days of Larry Walker, Todd Helton.
We're going a while back.
Yeah, it's been years since they've ever been that good, because obviously we all know the National League West is, when it comes to the National League, is one of the other competitive divisions, because they got three teams that are very competitive. That's the Dodgers, the Padres, and the Giants. But the Padres at times can be somewhat competitive. It's just how some of these teams, it's like, and I think Hayden said it perfectly. Like some of these teams, like the Nationals, and you could probably throw the Reds in that category of
the Reds, the A's. And what really upsets me is that the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, had to some extent a resolution on how to avoid teams from doing this, and they expanded the playoffs. They added two more teams. You have one more in the NL and one more in the AL. And I really hope that would have made teams want to contend more and want to fight more. If you have these teams that are, 500, ball game teams, so maybe a team like the Marlins that are around 500 now, the Reds, I guess the A's this past season, maybe the Padres, that would have tried to persuade them to really just kind of want to build in the offseason. And unfortunately, you have these small market owners that, just don't give, don't care. And, I'm lucky enough to be a Mets fan now. I mean, the last 2 years have been awesome for money. Prior, the Wilpons, they were clowns itself, but now Steve Cohen is willing to spend money. If you're a Yankees fan, Steinbrenner, he's so far, I guess he's not so much this offseason, but, point is teams are now going to start spending money. And I just think it's really unfortunate. The Rockies, I don't know what they're doing overall. I mean, you lose Nolan Arenado last offseason, and one of the most worst trades that I have ever seen as a baseball fan. I am 20 years old, and even before I was alive, I would always, study all MLB, and that was one of the worst trades I've ever seen in return. And then you're also sending $50 million over to St. Louis to accommodate Arenado's contract there. But then you want to pick up 174 for Bryant. Just made zero sense.
That's very true. And it's just like, And like you said, I mean, like for us too, like, and I guess me and Key can probably attest, like we kind of been in the same boat in terms of, teams are not spending money. Like, I mean, we don't know that from what I remember, the Wilpons were super cheap as hell, and most of us were kind of clowning on them, and rightfully so. It's just like now finally and like you said, I mean, obviously when the Mets got a new owner, they were willing to spend money. This year, we finally went over the luxury tax threshold for the first time in franchise history, which
because it took Bryce Harper to get in Middleton's ass and said, "Hey, the Mets is upgrading."
Like the Braves are getting good.
Just upgraded. They let go of one superstar at first base to get another superstar at first base. It shouldn't take your superstar right fielder MVP to put a fire under your ass to get some players in here. And thank you, Bryce Harper. Not thank you to John Middleton. Thank you, Bryce Harper, for getting these guys in here. So let's play baseball.
I mean, you did if you're the Braves, I mean, you can't do anything better than that, man. You got a World Series, you shipped out a World Series guy, but you bring in a younger left-handed bat, Matt Olson, that hits for power, that can play first baseman real good, and then that DH in the both leagues, that's going to make a huge difference on both sides. It's going to
make baseball competitive again.
It's going to be competitive again. That way, the only thing the pitcher got to focus on just pitch. Hey, just go out there and pitch. That's it. You don't have to worry about him blowing out an arm, swinging at a bat, just tearing his hamstring up. Just pitch. Just go out there and pitch. That DH going to help a lot during the NFC, during the NL, in the AL. That pitch, that's going to help a lot, that DH. That's going to help a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And I said this too, like when DeGrom first swung the bat last season and he tore, it was like, I think he had like a sprained shoulder. It's just like, I'm thinking to myself, where the hell is the universal DH when you really need it? Because it's like, because what DeGrom did this last season was absolutely superhuman. But the fact that like some of these injuries were still kind of like catching up to him is like, I think at this point we had to start implementing that universal DH. But it's just, you hate seeing like these superstar pitchers getting hurt. And no offense to Hayden, like that's kind of how it felt like where the Mets kind of just fell off. Once DeGrom went down, that's when the entire season was just shot. Because I feel like everything is going through DeGrom in the ways that how that team is performing.
And then one thing I want to back you up on too, Robert. The first season, I think Lindor of his contract, he stole money from the New York Mets. He stole some money a little bit for the New York Mets.
That's absolutely true.
Definitely didn't perform. Baez came in. He just wasn't that good either. It just seemed like the team fell apart. After the Baez trade, after the trade deadline, it looked like the Mets just fell apart after that trade deadline. I remember they was in first place, wasn't they, in the division comfortably pretty much, and they just fell apart. And Lindor didn't perform, and Baez really didn't perform.
Baez was phenomenal.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, and I agree with you guys. I think when you look at DeGrom, he really was the leader of the pack. And it's, the domino effect. One person falls, it affects the whole team. You and DeGrom go out there in April, May, and June, give you 8 to 7 innings of solid baseball, 2 hits, a walk, and maybe one lucky barrel, which resulted in a home run. And that was literally DeGrom's slash line. DeGrom had a phenomenal Hall of Fame season, no doubt about it. If you want to get basic, he had a .52 ERA, whatever. And then you had that rotation under him. Stroman had a great year. Walker had a great year returning from injury in the first year of his contract. You had Tyler McGill, who was called up. Phenomenal season out of him as a rookie standard. Point was, the Mets had a solid first half last year. The DeGrom injury definitely was the domino that fell because that put more innings on Walker, who was coming back only pitching 30 innings in the last 3 years with Toronto and Seattle. Offensively, team struggled. I think a lot of it was poor management on Luis Rojas. The hitting instructors, they brought in Hugh Quattlebaum to replace Chili Davis. Chili Davis was their old hitting coach. They fired. Then they brought in Hugh Quattlebaum. Disaster of a hitting coach. Disaster. I mean, we didn't see much fundamental hitting. In terms of runners in scoring position coming into clutch. Lindor really struggled, unfortunately, the first season of his contract. And it comes to question is, I'll say this, $341 million, he's not worth that much. Even 2018 Cleveland, I don't think he was that much. It's tough. Defensively, he's good. Defensively, he's phenomenal. He was Gold Glove caliber. I liked him defensively. Offensively, though, we would constantly see him pull the ball to the right side of the field. Ground ball pulled. We saw him pulling the ball so much, not elevating the bat, having a nice clear swing. We weren't seeing that. He wasn't striking out a whole lot. He was making contact, so I'll give him that. It's not like he was, sitting there, taking strike three or swinging and misses. He was pulling the ball, which just resulted going to the first baseman or the second baseman or, a fly ball to right field or whatever. So Lindor really struggled. He did show some light in September. I mean, he started to get a little bit better in September, but it was too late. Baez came in. Baez was pretty phenomenal, in my opinion. I mean, the stats, his plate discipline, Baez's plate discipline was awesome. He had his highest walk rate. I think it was at a dozen or so, and his lowest strikeout rate. The power we saw out of Baez, just really the speed and athleticism. I think he backed probably 280, 290 or something with the Mets when he came. Unfortunately, they lost him, but that's the risk, whatever. And then you had Alonso. Phenomenal season out of Pete Alonso. I mean, 37 homers. What is there not to complain there? McNeil had a down year. Michael Conforto, J.D. Davis. The only guys that really did stuff offensively was Brandon Nimmo, who walked and got base hits. And then Alonso drove him in with the hard double down the line or a home run. So that was really the Mets season last year. It was Nimmo walks, Alonso brings him in. So Nimmo and Alonso were fine. I'm not worried about those guys. It's J.D. Davis that he was coming back from a hand injury, but it's J.D. Davis I worry about. It's Francisco Lindor. It's Jeff McNeil. But someone asked before, thoughts on the Mets offseason. And the Mets, in my opinion, really did upgrade a lot of their issues. They brought in Starling Marte, another table setter who has awesome speed, has some speed in the outfield. I'm definitely a little bit worried about him playing center. I like Nimmo in center rather than left. But Marte, he has speed. He has athleticism. He could hit for some power. Definitely still has pop in his bat. You brought in Eduardo Escobar, switch hitter. Very, 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 very valuable. I think having a switch hitter on this lineup could really be something, because the Mets really were looking into left-handed bats this offseason, and getting Escobar helps that because you have left, righty, whatever. So you brought in Escobar. You brought in Mark Canha, underrated signing, in my opinion. Completely underrated, high on base percentage. He's not power. Yeah, he gets on base. He makes bat-to-ball contact. And then I think the most interesting signing is of Max Scherzer. Say what you want. He's definitely older. You do have some, injury concern about him. I get that. But what we saw out of him last year with DC and part-time the Nationals was with the Dodgers was phenomenal. I mean, he got a little fatigue in the playoffs. I get that. I don't really think the Dodgers necessarily, Dave Roberts, I don't really think they were managing him that great in the playoffs. I think they were giving him a little too many innings and, with that 6-day nonsense. So that, we'll see. I mean, the Mets, they brought in Buck Showalter. I think that was a phenomenal move. I think he's a phenomenal manager. Chris Bassett, another solid pick.
Was the ace for the A's.
Yeah.
So definitely that pitching rotation is going to be
the only team that Chris Bassitt really had trouble with last year was the Astros. That was the only team that was able to knock him around last year. Other than that, Chris Bassitt was pretty much a borderline all-star last year. But the only team that was able to knock him around pretty much was the Astros. That was it.
Yeah, I just felt like Chris Bassitt is really super underappreciated in the league. Now, kind of get to my next thing is obviously with Winker and Eugenio Suarez being in Seattle, I want to kind of get your guys' thoughts. Is there a problem with how Cincinnati, the Reds, is being run by their ownership? I kind of want to get your guys' takes on the Cincinnati Reds and what happened after they traded Eugenio Suarez and Jesse Winker.
Y'all can go.
Yeah, the Reds made phenomenal moves this offseason. They made their team so much better. Getting rid of all their talent and pretty much, two aces in there. Just overall, I don't know what Cincinnati's doing. I don't know what David Bell and whoever the owner is of that team, I don't know what they're looking for. This was the team that was 2 games out of the playoffs last year, 3 games out. They were the next team up in the wild card spot. So if they had that extra postseason format last year like they do this year, they would have made it. They had a solid rotation. Having a rotation of Miley, Gray, and Castillo, I don't think it's like Mets tier, or Dodgers tier, but it's definitely a solid rotation, especially if you're going into the playoffs to have that 1-2-3 punch. You had a mixture of everything. I mean, they had the only guy they really have left is the renaissance of Joey Votto, who, I mean, still has some pop in his at bat. We know that Votto is more so trying to, I guess, hit for line drives rather than, hit for some power line drive, get the ball elevated, then do what he was doing in the past. So he has a different approach at the plate, which really helped out Votto this season. I know we had like a 7-game stretch of home runs. I mean, obviously, Eugenio Suarez, in my opinion, arguably one of the worst players in baseball. I mean, maybe I can understand that. I mean, defensively, he's fine, but offensively, oof. Jesse Winker, though, it was kind of an unfortunate move. I mean, all-star caliber year. I mean, really exploded with Castellanos. Both of those guys had phenomenal seasons last year. Just overall, it's really unfortunate that you see teams taking this route. And, baseball, we're coming off of, a very stressful lockout. Baseball is supposed to be enjoyable. And it's just unfortunate that you see these owners that don't care. And they just say, okay, we'll worry about winning in a couple years. And sell the team if you're not interested. If you're not interested in running a ball club, tell the A's, tell the Reds, tell whoever to sell the team. I respect teams, whether it's the Rays. They don't spend money, but what do? They invest in analytics. They invest in that Moneyball mentality. It works. The Mets that's spending money. The Yankees that are spending money. In the past, the Nationals are spending money. I don't know what they're going to do now. I mean, the Phillies are now starting to spend a little bit. The Dodgers, the Padres, the Giants. I respect those teams. It's, these small market teams that screwed over half of the CBA. And, now we're just, pulling this nonsense. I don't know. Just unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, and I said this too. I think a handful of guys that I know behind the scenes is that, I think Cincinnati fans just should deserve better.
Absolutely.
I just feel like I don't know maybe if it's just me. I feel like John Fisher, who's the owner of the A's, I feel like he still has he's still stuck in that Moneyball era from like the last, has been relevant since in 20 years. It's like
2003, yeah.
But the only team that I feel like that does make it work, and like you said, it's the Rays. Yeah, they are, even though they're notoriously known not spending money, but for some odd reason, but it works. Like you said, obviously the analytics, a lot of people are 50-50 on that. I mean, it's just like, it's crazy to see what these teams can do. Unlike some of these smaller market teams, it's like, what are you doing? It's like a huge question mark on the game of baseball. And like I said, in the CBA, like they're supposed to prevent tanking. And that's what the Oakland A's and the Cincinnati Reds are doing.
Yeah, definitely. Like the A's are a type of team, they'll develop talent, but then they'll let it go away. They develop a talent, they'll let it go away. Yoenis Cespedes, the very next year they let him go. He's in the World Series with the New York Mets. They develop Matt Olson. He's gone. He's gone right now in with a World Series championship contender team. They develop him. Matt Chapman, who's very good with the glove at third baseman. He's a strikeout machine. He'll run into a ball every blue moon, but he's an excellent third baseman. They let him go. So again, they develop players. They let players go. They're pretty much gonna be a rebuilding team, just like the Reds. Nick Castellanos is a great player. The guy can hit. He can hit for power. He's going to be good with the Philadelphia Phillies. Jesse Winker is going to be good with Seattle, even though I think Seattle is a borderline. They will be a very inconsistent team. They still will be able to give teams like my Astros a little bit of trouble in the West, and in the Angels. They will get them guys a little bit of trouble. They'll get some wins, but I don't think they will be too dynamic enough to make a playoff push. But again, like I say, and also it's all about drafting well and making trades well. And that trade when Brian Meadows that Pittsburgh made for Chris Archer, that probably was one of the worst trades. Look what Brian Meadows is doing over there. Look what Meadows is doing over there with the Rays. Look how good they are. Yankees spend all of this money, and the Rays are better than them in baseball. The Rays are better than the Yankees. Literally, who the Yankees pretty much got all the money in the AL East, and the Rays are just a better team. They are both. They don't have good starting pitching like that, but they know how to use. They know how to use the rotation. Austin Meadows. They know how to use their stuff. They know how to use their pitching the right way. And the Rays are just a very good, solid baseball team. And like I said again, man, that's why I respect teams like the A's and stuff, like the Rays and stuff like that. Teams that don't go out there and spend too much money, that develop pretty much their own talent, and then they make decent trades as well. They don't have much pitching, but those guys can hit. Those guys can really actually hit and put runs on the board. In the pitching, they don't have much starting pitching, but they use that bullpen. Cash use that bullpen the right way and use those pitchers to their strength. That's why they're in it every single year. That's why I respect teams like you said, like the Rays and stuff like that. Philadelphia Phillies starting to spend money. Now, if they don't make the playoffs this year, if they struggle this year, that should be no excuses for the Phillies. All of that lineup right there, that if they struggle this year, that manager needs to be fired if they struggle this year. Something got to go wrong if they don't make the playoffs this year. Something got to go wrong. Something ain't right.
And kind of add to that too. I mean, in not just the Austin Meadows trade too. Like, think what happened with Tyler Glasnow. He was not that. He was decent. He was okay in Pittsburgh. But once he got to Tampa Bay, like I feel like he took his game to another level. The way that he's turned it around. Yeah, granted, he's coming off of Tommy John surgery, but if you looked at how he transitioned into Tampa Bay, it's like I feel like the Rays kind of unlocked what could have been in Pittsburgh. And I don't know what it is about Pittsburgh. What was that?
I said same for Garrett Cole. I mean, the Pirates.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Garrett Cole, too. God.
Produce these guys and just send them away. I mean,
hey, Garrett Cole was unhittable when he was with the Astros. He was unhittable. I mean, him and Verlander together, I'm telling you, bro, that was a dangerous combination. Them two was unhittable. Them two was goddamn unhittable. Then he goes to the Yankees. He gets spider tag and he started getting exposed a little bit, but he's still a very good pitcher. He's still a top 10 pitcher in the National Baseball League.
And it's just like now you're looking, especially now when it comes to the Yankees. Now my idea thing is it's like obviously Judge, I think isn't Judge a free agent or an upcoming free agent next year according to his contract. But I feel like they're going to make a mistake. The Yankees are if they don't offer him a contract extension, which let's be real, he's probably one of. I actually like what Aaron Judge brings to the table, especially for a guy who's and like just baseball in general. Like it proves to the game, like you don't have to be how tall you are. Other of you, like from Aaron Judge all the way to Jose Altuve, who's 5'6". It's just what. This all season, like we see the Mets make moves. I think 29 out of the 30 teams make moves, except for the New York Yankees. I feel like the Yankees made some small minor moves here and there. But yeah, I think according to Dante, I think another up and coming team other than the Detroit in the AL Central is the Seattle Mariners. Now, granted, the Seattle Mariners has a longer playoff drought than we do. I think they have a chance of snapping that. I think us and Seattle have a chance to snap that streak. Now, I kind of get you guys' thoughts too, especially with the new CBA. They finally cut out the ghost runner extra inning rule, which me and some of my buddies that we've been screaming that for about a couple of years now. It's like it's a cheap way to end the game, especially if you're the home team. Like you got to earn that. Kind of get you guys' thoughts on that. Finally getting removed.
I feel like they was cheating. I feel like that's cheating. I know they trying to speed the game up with these new, the pitch count and no shifts and all that stuff, which I do feel like baseball's long is all get out. Especially if you go to extra innings, you can be sitting there 2 more hours. It's crazy. But I just felt like they was trying to speed the game up by putting somebody there. All right, you get a hit and that's an easy. Like you said, Robert, that's not earned. Like that's not an earned run. Like give it to me straight raw. Make me work for this.
Because it produces a lot of good memories to look back on, like 10, 15 years down the road. I mean, think about it this way: looking back into 2008, again when the Phillies played the Dodgers. I mean, probably within, I think take Joe Bland for example. I think it was the bottom 8. We were down by a run, or I think 1 or 2 runs. Like he kind of brought us back within 1 with that huge blast, and the entire something like that. What brings that? Something like that, whereas something like walkover wins are nice, but you got to do them like in the right fashion. That's the way that I see it. And it's just I don't know, man. It's just like when they first introduced that rule, it's like all right, it was like this is something you see like in wiffle ball for the love of God.
I feel like you just kind of make the game go more longer by putting the runner on second base.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you good teams will only be able to take advantage of that stuff. That when you put a runner on second base with no outs, get the man over the third, get a sacrifice fly, get an easy base hit. Now for when it's the road team, the pressure is basically on the road team in that situation when they first come out. If you don't get that run home, if you're the road team, now the pressure is on you. Now the pressure is on you as you, the home team, to try to stop the home team from getting a run in or the game is over instantly. I feel like they should have kept it the same. Make the guys earn it. Make the guys earn it, man. Just make them earn it, man. I don't think it should be a runner started off on second base immediately with nobody out. Where it's pretty much you can make the game extended unless you get a 2-run lead or something like that, or if someone hits a home run. I think you should keep it the same way. Make the game be more make people more earn it. Don't put a man on second base. Make people earn the game. I just feel like you extending the game more and more longer if people execute it right. And especially for a good team, you will hate that. You will hate going against a team like the Yankees that got power, a team like the Rays, a team like the Phillies this year, or a team like the Astros who put the bat on the ball all the time, who doesn't really strike out. You would hate that rule if you was going against those type of team. You definitely would hate that rule.
Oh, absolutely. And not to mention too, if you're like a closer in that kind of situation, like that's even more stress than it should have been. It's like look, I get it being a closer is stressful, but the fact when when that rule was in place, that it was even much more stressful for a lot of teams. I mean, me and Key can attest to that rule. Like we had to sit through what 50 over 50 games worth of that bullshit. It's like that's something like it's not the easiest thing to really do, but I think overall, I thought a lot of teams make some decent moves. I mean, yeah, granted, I mean, we got stuck with Familia, and a lot of people say, he's going to be a right. I say, look, I think a lot, and I said this too. I think a lot of players can have a bounce back year. I know Familia is going to have. I think he's going to bounce back because I really hope he can. If he does bounce back, I hope we can see what he was in 2015, 2016. Brad Hand, I was 50-50 on it because it's like, as soon as he was with the Nationals, he just got knocked around a little bit. It's just, and I think I think Toronto he got knocked around as too, but I think he's still decent enough. But I think other than Kyle Schwarber and Castellanos, when it comes to the bullpen help, was Knebel before the lockout, and which is funny because I made a video this way weeks before he signed. He was one of the top free agent arms that I wanted to pick up in free agency. And before the lockout, here we are seeing Corey Knebel in the Phillies jersey. So I'm going to kind of get you guys' thoughts on, how the Astros and especially how the Mets are made, just how this all season went for a lot of these 30 teams.
One thing I would like to add on to the not to get off topic, but back to the extra inning rule. I will say I was not fond of that. It. Like you said, it adds pressure to certain teams. Yeah, I get it. It's not going to touch or inflate any of the bullpen pitchers, ERAs or stats or whatever. But still, in my opinion, it's kind of a cheap way to win. I understand the reason they did it. They did the 2020 season, speed up the game. They didn't want people out there long. And then same for last season. Now, I'm glad it's over. The only time I would allow it is if you're getting into like the 16th inning, then okay, yeah, maybe I would propose something like that. Because 16 innings of baseball, it's a little much.
That's brutal.
I'd say something like, once you get to like the 15th inning or something, then you can implement like a run around second or something like that.
Overall, I think there's only one time there a game when actually went a little bit over 20 innings. It's like, yeah, there's
I want to say was like 8 hours. Yeah, that was the longest.
What is like I literally
into the next dang on day. Like, who got time for that? People got to work, get up. Nobody
exactly. It's the same thing. Same thing became with the World Series. This last year's World Series, it was just super slow as hell. Like, some of the games where they would just put you to sleep. It's like, I mean, I can attest too. I almost fell asleep on stream doing games 5 and 6.
Can attest to that.
Dante and Coach Spotlight.
Game one. Yep.
Yeah, it's just like, yeah. I do really. I can really understand where that you can actually can implement that because it's like, from the 10th and let's say between 10 to 12, like if we kind of win it that way, yeah, fine. But like Hayden said, which is I think is very true, from 15 to whenever, implement that because it's like no one wants to be up for more than 8 hours to watch in the game. It's like usually in a typical game, those live almost like two, almost a little bit over 3 hours. But damn, like come on now. But it's just like, obviously, now I want to kind of get you guys, what are you guys' expectations going into the regular season? And what are you most looking forward to, especially with these 30 teams and see what the new acquisitions are going to do?
Well, my thoughts on the 30 teams, I'm going to start off with the AL West with the Astros. Like, I still think we're going to be fine. I still think we're going to be good, even though with the loss Carlos Correa, we survived the loss to George Springer. He has not been the same, but he's been nothing but injury prone. I think the Blue Jays are going to be a very good. I think they got a very good team over there, man. Them young guys, Vladimir Guerrero, who was the MVP last year. If it wasn't for a damn Shohei Ohtani, who can do both, play both positions of pitching. He's dominant, hitting. He's dominant. The
Come on, Max.
Got a team. Boba Shed, Calvin Biggio. That's all. I'm gonna let Max talk. I'm gonna talk no more trash. I ain't gonna talk. I'm gonna let him talk. I'm gonna let him talk. They can couple my shows all they want. I'm gonna let them talk. That's why they keep failing to make it where they want to make it at, because of this team right here. Knocking them out too, and you don't keep being frustrated. So other than that. But yeah, man, like I believe the Blue Jays got a very good team over there, very good squad. I believe they're gonna contend in the AL East Conference. I believe that team over there, man, with Springer over there bringing in that championship leadership over there, and bring losing Marcus Semien. I don't think that will be too much of a blow. Then Teoscar Hernandez, who came from the Astros, who was an all-star with a little pop over there in that bat also. But also, I think the Astros are going to win the division. I think.
Speaking of Eric, what is good?
They go Eric over there. They go Eric over there. I forgot. Eric USC ain't playing today. I forgot. But yeah, I think the AL West. I think the Astros going to come out of that. I got the Dodgers coming out of the NL West over there. I think they're going to do some good. I got the Braves coming out of the NL East. I got the Mets, a borderline wild card team, and I got the Phillies. I think the Phillies and Braves are gonna fight for that. I got St. Louis. Coming out of AL Central, AL East, L Central. I got the White Sox. That division is just garbage over there. That's just a garbage division over there.
I think it's probably like one of the.
I think it's gonna be Detroit. I think it's gonna be Detroit. I think it's gonna be between Detroit and the White Sox over there. In the AL East, I got the Tampa Bay Rays. I think the Yankees and the Rays are gonna fight for that. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a good baseball season. And like I say, Damian, that's okay. That's okay. You keep talking about that, sure they're gonna keep winning. That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, that's why y'all not gonna beat them. That's why y'all not gonna beat them.
He just gave your team. He just said the team's gonna win the division. Let it go. Let it go.
Well, then I guess he can't let it go since his White Sox is the one team that gave up on Fernando Tatis Jr. for James fucking Shields. Like, come on now. Like, when I saw that trade went down, I was like, yeah, I've seen some bad trades, but damn, like, why would you do that? And we'll get to see what Tatis is all about. Hopefully he does have a speedy recovery, obviously dealing with a fractured wrist.
Yeah, he's going to be out for a while.
But then again, I think from what I've understood, but then again, I mean, it can't be worse than Vince Velasquez going to be stuck with them.
Have fun with Vinny, Damian. Have fun with Vinny.
I think the Padres still might still have Arrieta, if I'm not mistaken, under contract too.
One more thing before I let everybody else go. That's why teams can't do what they want to do and can't win. That's why teams like the Yankees going to continue to fail every year, have those expectations and fail every year. That's why the team like the White Sox going to fail. Too much worrying about the damn Astros and what happened 4 years ago. You too much worrying about them instead of worrying about what you can do. You can't get man on base. You can't hit with man on base. You strike out too damn much. That's why you can't win games. That's why you can't get to the playoffs. That's why you're going to fall short, because y'all still worrying about the goddamn Astros and still worrying about 4 years ago instead of worrying about fixing your own problems and still got that Aaron Buffoon over there. So that's why and that's why Tony La Russa,
Damn it.
that's why Tony La Russa is a drunk over there in that week. So that's why if you stop focusing on the Astros, you guys can win tomorrow.
Shots fired.
Ooh.
But let me go back over the big question up there, asking how the what about the Phillies? I'm just happy that the Phillies spent some damn money for once.
Yeah,
besides Bryce Harper, I'm just happy that we got somebody to help him. It's just like the Sixers here, getting somebody to help Embiid. We needed somebody to help out Bryce Harper, and JT Realmuto, and Reese Hoskins. Now we got Schwarber and Castellanos here, and he's going to I was watching a video of him the other day, and he got that Philly grit and that dog in him, and I like him already. He didn't even set foot on the field yet,
and
like. I'm all in. Like I'm all like that.
Absolutely, and like me, and I can attest to Keita too. Like, and that fact that he also touched down in Clearwater, which is making it even much more fun to watch, especially come in spring training. And I'll say this too, but before we acquired Carlos Schwarber was a pain in our ass when he was with Washington. I can say that
I can confirm.
Yeah, and yeah, just like the fact, and it's like, oh, he's like, people are kind of slandering. It's like, have you not looked at the numbers he put up with Washington? Almost a 40 home run season. I think over 260, I think 266, I think was hitting. But it's just like, it's going to be very interesting because it's like now, and I kind of, and even because I actually say this too, like, and this is the thing about Phillies fans. Heads can be toxic at times. I mean, for one thing, they can slander from JT for having a lot of injuries, from a shoulder impingement, a hip problem, a broken thumb from spring training, concussion problems. Like, give it a break. And I think too, and actually with Hoskins fully back healthy, which pray to fucking God he stays healthy, because I think, and I said this too, when he got hot at the right time,
he got hurt.
He got hurt at the worst possible time. It was like earlier in the season, yeah, I would not be too much worried about it, but that screwed us to no avail. Now, obviously, with having Schwarber, I think he's probably going to be our primary DH, and having Castellanos being, I think, our left fielder, and obviously a shitty platoon in center. I think we have on paper. I mean, we got good talent on paper.
Yeah, everybody's talking about, oh, y'all don't got no defense. It'll work out. Just
not if we put up 15, 21s a game. I mean, that's pretty much. But with that kind of out of the way, it's just like, it's going to be very interesting because Taijuan Walker during his time in Seattle with Taijuan Walker, yeah, granted he's battled with injuries. I think he's still a super underappreciated player. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah, granted, I mean, obviously, and like Hayden said, he had probably one of his best seasons with New York. Probably, it's not. Look, let's be real. New York is one of those places. It's not that easy to play through, whether you're coming from the Mets or the Yankees. Same here in Philadelphia. You look at these bigger market teams. You had that pressure right sit on top of your shoulders, and it's just like what Walker did, especially obviously, I think it was on the innings limit, if I'm not mistaken, Hayden. Last season,
they didn't really put Walker on a limited amount of innings. I think Rojas and a lot of the Mets, I mean Jeremy Hefner, the pitching coach, a lot of the Mets coaching staff and front office were cognizant that the dude only pitched 30 innings in the last 3 years, because with Toronto he was injured and with Seattle he was injured. So when he went to the All-Star break, that's when he kind of went a little downhill. The barrels became a big thing with him. His velocity took a little bit of a dip. His fastball and his secondary pitches weren't as meaty, I guess you could say. His command of the zone was, I guess, fair. Just overall, I guess he kind of got a little fatigued because entering the second half, he was at 100 innings pitched almost, compared to 30, he pitched 30 innings in the last 3 years. So that was the big thing with Walker. Yeah, I mean, necessarily they didn't really have a pitch limit for him, but they were trying to preserve him for as much as they could.
And yeah, that's absolutely true. But who out of this panel, like, who knows the reliever Joe Smith? Does that name ring a bell to most of you guys?
Yep, Astros relief pitcher. He used to be Astros relief pitcher.
I'll say this too, like, how the hell is he still in the league? I forgot he was still even in the league. I forgot he was still in the league. That's what's crazy about some of these players. Like, Wait, who else is still? I mean, I know Elvis Andrews is still. Where is he at now? Oakland
He
now.
with the A's. I think he's still with the A's.
I think he's a decent player to some extent, but the fact that Joe Smith's still in the league, like that.
Robbie Cano.
Oh,
Robbie Cano.
Yeah, but
Cano's still playing. Jesus.
yeah. Well, after that dumb decision last year, which let's be real, like that's kind of the most. And I think, and I'll say this too. I mean, I've watched some of his highlights, especially from back in 2014. Like, and yeah, granted, I know he took a lot of heat for leaving the Yankees to go to Seattle on a 10-240. Like, I don't know, man. I thought he was very underappreciated at the time, and I think he still is to a certain extent, because I know a lot of players when they get up to like their mid 30s, because usually your prime years, I think it's from like 26 to 32 in that time frame. But once you get past that time frame, you pretty much your body knows where you're starting to break down. And this is why I think with the Angels, they got to do something, because Mike Trout's not getting any younger. Shohei Ohtani's not getting any younger.
Mike Trout should be in Philly.
I don't understand. How do you have two of the best players down there in baseball and you can't make a playoff push because they don't have pitching? That shows you how bad their pitching been. So, go ahead, Jaden. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what I find interesting about the Angels now is you look at last year. Going into last year's season, they had Rendon, who is coming off of an injury stint. That's fine. You had Trout and Ohtani. Keep in mind, those three guys only played 17 total games together. But keeping Rodon out of the picture and show in Ohtani and Trout, they never really played both together as an MVP type of style, because Trout was injured going into May and for the whole season. And then so we never saw Ohtani and Trout play together at MVP pace. So, I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, you could easily see 80 home runs out of the two of them. You could easily see, so much from these guys. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think the Angels are going to be an interesting team going into this season, regardless of their management, putting that aside, which I think is solid. Jared Walsh coming off of an all-star year at first base, solid. I mean, Trout. Hopefully Rendon could, stay healthy and be the type of hitter he was in DC, high average, high on base, spread the ball all over the field, that type of guy. Ohtani, who both of those guys still seem like they're doing their stuff. They acquired some pitching at, this offseason. Nothing that's like, ooh, that's a really good, move. They got Syndergaard. I mean, I'll tell you from Syndergaard coming off of Tommy John. Dude relies on velocity, high heat, fast pitches. One bad move and coming off of Tommy John and you're done. So, they're going to have to watch Syndergaard. They're going to have to really make sure he's easy with his pitches. So, I mean, I think Syndergaard's fair. They got Aaron Loop. Relievers are streaky, so it's never like, oh, my God. I get it. Loop's coming off of his best year, in my opinion, with the Mets. But, we'll see how he does in Anaheim. They got Michael Lorenzen also coming off of injury. I mean, they'll probably make him a starter, it seems like, because that rotation only has so much depth. But I know, so, I mean, we're going to see with the Angels. Did you want me to give my predictions for some teams? I know you were kind of asking.
I'll take some prediction. Everybody, let's all do predictions again. And
absolutely.
Let's go all around since the season get ready to start on the 7th. So let's just go all around the board.
Well, for most teams, it's going to be on the 8th. So it's going to be between the 7th and the 8th for some teams. So it does have to be like. So how do you want to do this? Like from like the AL East onwards?
AL East all the way down. Then we can go from the NL, however you want to do it.
Well, obviously the obvious choice for the AL East is the Tampa Bay Rays, because they've always been that consistent bunch. But I kind of feel like where they're going to have sometimes, and their downfall at times is where sometimes they have at times heavily rely on analytics, and at times that's kind of what hurts them a little bit. But they have probably some of the greatest talent on paper, especially with Wander Franco. Obviously when they locked him up, which I was very skeptical of, just because it's like he hasn't played a full season. So and I kind of understand why they want to lock him up, because why lose some like a talent like Wander Franco to another team and just ruin and just be forgotten, that kind of thing. But that's what coming from me from the AL East. AL Central, I'm going to have to say the White Sox, because like Donnie said, that division is weak. That is a weak division. I think the one team that I could probably see that can give the White Sox problems is probably the Detroit Tigers, because they are like the next. Because obviously with the Royals, probably not the best team, but I think obviously, bringing back Greinke on a 1-year deal, which, I think can really help, especially with that young pitching staff. I think is really what's going to help. But it's the fact that they still have Salvador Perez, who, in my eyes, the fact that he had that kind of a season last year is unheard of from Perez. AL West, it's going to have to be the Astros because it's like what the A's are doing. It's just like it's not good. The Angels is questionable depending on who's going to stay healthy. But the NL West, the NL West is going to be a tough one because it's going to come down to 2 teams, and that's the Giants and the Dodgers. But I'm going to go with the Dodgers because obviously I think Freddie Freeman is going to be that X factor for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Because if you look at the Giants of what they had last year, I think they're going to take a little bit of a step backwards this year because obviously losing to Kevin Gausman to Toronto. Who else did San Francisco lose? I know they lost some significant pieces.
Posey.
Posey to retirement, which
they lost Chris Bryant. They did have Chris Bryant. They lost
Chris Bryant. Yeah, so they lost some significant pieces. So expect a little bit. It's not like a bad regression, but it's going to be a regression to some extent. I think it's going to come. Like I said, it's going to come down to the Dodgers and the Giants, but I think Dodgers are going to winning the division. Let's see, the NL Central. I'm going to have to go with the Cardinals. Scratch that. I'm sorry, the Brewers, because I think I like what the Brewers are having on that squad. I think the Cardinals is the next team. I think that's one of the teams that's going to give them problems. But don't be surprised if and I think the Cubs are going to be that surprise team in that division. And the NL East, unfortunately, I had to say this, but I think it's going to be Atlanta. I think Atlanta's going to take that division, but I don't think it's not good. I don't think it's going to be that by much, though. Like, it's going to be very close. So those are my predictions for those divisions.
You can go ahead, Hayden.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I guess going into each, starting off the American League West, and I'm going to have to say the Blue Jays. The fact is, last season, they finished with 90 wins, and they pretty much battled it out to game 162. And one of their biggest things last year was their rotation and their pitching staff. And looking at the 40-man roster right now, or at least the 26-man roster, they brought in Barrios at last year's trade deadline. Phenomenal season. I mean, Cy Young contending ship. They extended him this past offseason. That was a big thing. You lost Robbie Ray. In my opinion, do I want to call him a one-year wonder, or is he going to compete for another Cy Young? I think it's possible, but I also think there's a possibility that he may not be Cy Young worthy, but I think and hope he will. But the point is, you extended Barrios, so that's a big makeup. You brought in Kevin Gausman from the Giants, awesome move. Yusei Kikuchi, not like, a solid guy, kind of like a 4th, 5th starter. He was solid with Seattle in the first half, in my opinion. Barrel, spider attack, hard contact, merchant. Hyun-Jin Ryu also, I mean, fair season last year, nothing crazy. Partially Cy Young contendership. They brought in Yimi Garcia. They have Anthony Kay. They have their rookie Alek Manoah, who had a phenomenal rookie season last year, really unexpected. They have their pitching prospect Nate Pearson. Maybe you could move him in the bullpen, give that bullpen some support. But getting into that, that route, the lineup. I mean, Bichette, if Biggio can come back and be healthy, you have Chapman, Espinal, Guerrero Jr., Randall Grichuk, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Tasker Hernandez, George Springer. Everyone says, Springer was hurt. But for the month that Springer played, he was phenomenal that month he played. So if he could try and translate that 1 month he played into, maybe at least 90% of the season, he could really be a phenomenal guy. So I got the Blue Jays. I think it's going to be a really 4-way race between the Blue Jays, Red Sox, Rays, and Yankees. It's going to be close, but I got to go the Blue Jays. In terms of the AL Central, like kind of what you guys said, it's kind of a weak division. I mean, Cleveland Guardians, whatever the heck they're called.
Guardians.
I mean, Shane Bieber and the Mets prospects they traded over there the last couple of years. Andres Jimenez, Ahmed Rosario. Okay. I mean, they still got J-Ram, so I think he could do something, but really not. I mean, I got to go the White Sox, really. I mean, like I said, if there were other teams in that division, that were like 500 and above, then I'd say, okay, you have a little bit of a race. I think the Tigers may be fair. Keep in mind the Tigers finished the second half above 500. They in the second half, they were over 500 in terms of standings in the 500. But yeah, I mean, right now, I guess it's the White Sox. I mean, regardless of who they really have, I mean, they have some solid guys. I mean, that rotation could be the biggest thing of question with health. They lost Rodon, but hey, they still have some guy. We'll see. That lineup, though, is pretty deadly, has a lot of young talent. In terms of the AL West, like, it's tough. It's really a two-way, three-way battle, in my opinion. But I do feel the Astros still have that division. I think the Mariners are going to give them a run for their money 100%. I mean, the Mariners, hold on. I want to Google one thing. Mariners team wins above replacement. I wanted to see what they had last year because they had one of the highest wins above replacement as well as coming into clutch. They were a very clutch team last year. But the Mariners, in my opinion, are very underrated. But I got to go the Astros. I get it, that they lost Correa, they don't have Springer anymore, but, they still have some fight in them. I think it was good. Obviously, they brought back, veteran Justin Verlander. I think that is definitely something big. But let's take a look at, some of these other guys in the roster. I mean, obviously, you have Gurriel, Bregman, Altuve, Kyle Tucker, high on base percentage guy. I like Kyle Tucker, really nice, solid left-hand bat. I think he definitely will be an all-star for the team. They have Christian Javier, solid guys, I guess, nothing crazy. Jordan Alvarez, yeah. Houston has a solid team. I got them in the West. In terms of the NL, I guess starting off with the NL West, I got to go the Dodgers. I look at this lineup, and I looked at it, and I'm thinking to myself, who's the worst player on this lineup? And it's like A.J. Pollock, who is arguably an all-star.
You probably did make an argument for Cody Bellinger because I know he's probably going to be the easiest out of that lineup.
That's true. You can make that argument. That's true. I mean, Bellinger, I think it's the long swing he has in that elbow surgery. It's that long swing. That long swing helped him out when he was younger, but with that elbow surgery and just the way he tried to launch it just doesn't. I don't know. With Bellinger, it's tough now. But in terms of that Dodgers, just what they got there. I mean, they'll probably move Muncy to second, in my opinion, because of that, the injury and he was a natural second baseman. You have Trey Turner, you have Justin Turner, A.J. Pollock, Chris Taylor. Phenomenal. Maybe my opinion is that rotation is fine. Kershaw. That fourth and fifth spot worries me a little bit. I mean, they don't have Bauer anymore. I doubt Bauer's coming back.
They just extended his leave to April 16th.
And Dave Roberts doesn't even want him. So, I mean, hold on. Is it? Yeah, it is that. Yeah, Dave Roberts doesn't even really want him on the team. So, I mean, that rotation is nice, I feel. I mean, I know they brought in Andrew Heaney this offseason, but they have a solid rotation. I mean, in my opinion, I think Buehler's the number one starter. I mean, maybe you have Kershaw in that number two or something like that. You got Julio Urias, solid. The bullpen's fine, but that fourth and fifth spot worries me. So maybe Gavin Lux. They're not doing anything with him, I see. Maybe you trade him over for a pitching arm like Frankie Montas or someone from the A's. So I think that could work there. So I think the Dodgers, in my opinion, will probably finish with the best record. I think they're a 100-win ball club. I got them in first place. Giants, listen, a lot of their veteran core, or not veteran core, but 30-year-old plus core is another year older. They lost Buster Posey. Listen, they lost Gausman. They got Rodon in replacement. I think that's fair, but I don't know. I just question, can the Giants do it again, which I think is possible. Padres, like I said, you lost Tatis. The Padres are a weird team because you have a lot of guys, Will Myers, Trent Grisham, who will have an MVP April and May and then just fall for the rest of the season.
Yep.
Right?
And they also got Luke Voigt as well to join that team.
Yeah, I mean, it's some power in that lineup, I guess, to make up for Tatis's absence till June. But Padres are weird. Blake Snell, I mean, their pitching core really let them down last year. Blake Snell really was not there. I mean, I'm guessing Chris Paddock was kind of a disappointment of a prospect so far. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. You Darvish, Nelson Lamet, if he could stay healthy. Mike Clevenger is supposed to start. I know he was absent all last year because of Tommy John, and they got him via trade with Cleveland. I mean, he's not really going to be anything crazy special because they can only work him so much. So Dodgers, NL West. NL Central, I got the Brewers. It's close, though, because that rotation is nice. In my opinion, I think arguably they have top three of a rotation. You have that Burns, Peralta, Woodruff 3 combination, which I think is phenomenal. And then that bullpen duo of Hader and Williams. It's the offense, though, that worries me a little bit. You have Luis Urias, solid. I mean, obviously, I don't think they'll have Willie Adames, or I don't know if they still do. Christian Yelich. Christian Yelich's power has gone in the toilet. I don't know what happened with Yelich. He has not been the same. I mean, the dude had an ISO, which is a power stat. I don't know if you guys are into analytics or not, but an ISO of 0 in the second half. That's right now. I mean, I think it's their pitching that's going to carry them, in my opinion. So I got them in first. In terms of the NL East, and I guess I'll cover all the NL East if you guys don't mind briefly.
Hey, shoot.
I know we're kind of NL East guys for the most part. I got the Braves in first place. I think it's going to be a battle, but I got the Braves. I mean, they lost Freeman, but they made up for Olsen, so they still have that left-handed presence at first. Solid glove, Gold Glove caliber, in my opinion. I think he'll have fun, on the road. Tucking the, he's a power guy, so definitely could tuck in the ball to the right side of Truist Park or whatever it's called now. So he'll have a nice time there. Ozzie Dalby's a solid. Austin Riley, or as I like to call him, Chipper Jones 2.0. Dansby Swanson. I don't know what they're going to do with Marcelo Zuna. I don't know how his deal is with his little incident last year. The absence of Acuna, they'll definitely leave a mark, but, maybe they could DH him at first. They got some talent. The rotation something. I mean, let's take a look at their rotation. I mean, their rotation something. I think obviously the absence with Mike Soroka.
Yeah, I think Mike Soroka was the one, because I think with Mike Soroka and I've been also seeing too, like they also compared him to Greg Maddux. Like for me, I think that's a kind of a stretch.
No, it's only 2019 he played, because in 2020 he was against the Mets. Believe it or not, he tore his Achilles, and then last year he had a setback, so he never even played. So I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I mean, they got some guys. You have the veteran Charlie Morton. You have Max Fried. You have Ian Anderson. Solid. You go to the bullpen. I mean, you have Will Smith, Sean Newcomb, AJ Minter, bringing in Colin McHugh. Underrated left-handed pitching signing. Awesome signing. I mean, if you look at that dude's baseball savant, his stats, awesome. Colin McHugh, underrated signing. In terms of second, it's tough with the NL East. I mean, in second place, in this biased society, I mean, I like to typically be unbiased. I like to not be biased. It's tough, but I'm probably going to say the Mets. I think if you look at the New York Mets right now, that pitching staff, you have so much depth. I mean, you pretty much have an 8th, 9th, and 10th pitcher in that rotation. I mean, right now, if the season were to start, you'd have DeGrom, you'd have Scherzer, you'd have Walker, you'd have Bassett. Well, probably be DeGrom, Scherzer, Bassett, Walker, Carrasco, McGill, Peterson, and then you go into like your Yamamotos and, Williams and those type of guys. That rotation is booked. I mean, I think DeGrom should hopefully be healthy this season. I think him not having to bat will be something. I think DeGrom will have a Cy Young year, and I mean, I think everyone could mostly say that. Sure. Will have a phenomenal year. I think Bassett will. I think Walker will start to get his stuff together. You look at that bullpen; it's solid. I think Seth Lugo. I mean, he has a gorgeous slider, gorgeous curveball. I love Seth Lugo. Edwin Diaz is the question. He's inconsistent. He'll come into some starts, he'll look awesome, and then he'll go into another start. His fastball, the zone won't be great. His slider, the command won't be there. So that's the thing with Diaz. But Trevor May, I mean, solid guys in that bullpen. That lineup, though, is really something now. I mean, you have Pete Alonso still. You have Brendan Nimmo still. Warren Davis could have a bounce back. You brought in Marte. You brought in Canna. You have Cano back. So I think this Mets lineup definitely has talent. It's just you brought in new coaching staff, and I think the coaching staff was their enemy last year, because they threw so much at them, whether it was the analytical attack or just different types of hitting styles, and that's what killed them last year, I feel. So they literally have an all new coaching staff, new first base, third base coach, everything, manager, everything. They have a new GM for goodness sake. So it's good. I guess third place, I'd say the Phillies. Phillies are the team that are like 2 to 3 moves away from being a really good team. Harper and Realmuto, solid. Hopefully Realmuto could have a little bit of a better season compared to last year. I think defensively he's fine. I think he's a top 3 catcher, no doubt about it. Zach Wheeler, Brody Van Wagenen's the devil for trading him or sending him to or letting him walk to Philly. It's the rotation and bullpen and defense that worries me.
Mostly our bullpen. That's what worries
It's
us.
the bullpen for us. The back end of the lineup, I'm iffy at. It's more of Eflin for me, only because of his injury.
Yeah, the knee tendonitis is what's is concern for, especially with me and Key.
Ranger Suarez, I like Ranger, and then that's when that part of the starting rotation is a
question mark.
Yeah. I mean, I think the thing overall with the Phillies is they brought in Schwarber and Castellanos, and in my opinion, if I'm Dombrowski.
Speaking of another Mets fan, good old Hammer's house.
What's going on? If I'm Phillies Dave Dombrowski, I'm not signing Schwarber. I'm signing just Castellanos. Why? Castellanos and Schwarber are horrible defensively. They're horrible defensively. I don't know if you guys are into analytics, but I could go off UZR, OAA, DRs. They're horrible defensively. So I worry with that outfield. And then you have Alec Bohm. I thought Alec Bohm was going to be the DH, and he's worse defensively out of those 3 guys. So you have 3 DH candidates in Alec Bohm, Kyle Schwarber. Schwarber was a disaster last year defensively. Boston threw him at first base because they didn't know what to do with him, and even they didn't like him there. So I just don't know what the Phillies are going to do with those 3 guys defensively. Because right now, the offense last year was fine. I wasn't worried about the offense. And the thing is, they're not going after their issues, pitching and defense. They brought in 2 guys who defensively, I'm going to worry. I mean, I'm going to worry about Castellanos and Schwarber and Bohm on that left side of the field. So we'll see. I mean, I think Harper's is awesome. Realmuto's awesome. Hoskins, he's not really that great defensively, but whatever. He's inconsistent. But if he stays there, he definitely could be solid. Well, Didi that's a contract, all right. But
that's why I said bring up Bryson Stott. You got to bring up the Vegas kid. I say get rid. And I think me and Key, I think we're kind of talking about this. I think like a handful of months ago, like we'll just ship his ass out back to or wherever what team needs a shortstop and bring up Bryson Stott, because I've been seeing what Bryson Stott can bring to the table for a guy who played at the college level. I mean, I like what I saw out of Bryson Stott. I mean, even though let's be real, our farm system is not the greatest by any stretch of the means, but we do have some great prospects. That
good. You know what we do?
It's not good. For me, I don't think
like we ship them away to other teams, and they come to bite us in the butt. Oh, the Phillies drafted him, but didn't keep him.
Yeah, I mean, think about this way: we gave up on Trevor May. He used to be a Phillies prospect, and look how he's doing. Who else is a big Phillies prospect? I can't think of off the top of my head. Well, we all knew he was going to be trash anyway, so Boston can deal with his ass. Chicago can deal with Vince Velasquez. We all know how bad he was when we traded Ken Giles to fucking Houston to get his. Honestly, I still think for me that was one of the worst trades we ever pulled. But I think I think a lot of teams made some bad trades over the years. I mean, off the top of my head, I think probably the best trade we ever pulled was with Houston back in 2007 when we traded Mike Costanza, Michael Bourne, and I forgot somebody else. Somebody like another player in exchange to get Brad Lidge, and then I told Key that, and I showed Key that back in 2000, Chase Utley would not have been a Philly if the Cardinals did not take their pick at 13. So we somehow got lucky to get Chase Utley at the 15th spot. Which, let's be real, history could have been a lot different. That Utley could not have been here in Philadelphia.
But finish. I know I've been going a little long, so I'll wrap it up.
You're good.
But yeah, I mean, Phillies, it's the defense that worries. That's the big thing. You have Bohm third, horrible defensively. Didi at shortstop, horrible defensively. Hoskins at first, horrible. I don't want to say he's horrible defensively, but he's not good, nor is he bad. I guess he's a little below. He's a little under average. Second, I want to say you have Segura. I mean, I remember that ESPN game. Oh boy, Segura. Harper, solid defensively, like I said, solid arm, cannon. I'm not really worried about Harper. It's that Castellanos and Schwarber little outfield is what I'm going to worry about with Philly. Like I said, the bullpen is their big thing. You have Wheeler, solid. I think Wheeler is a Cy Young contender. But then you got Nola. Ground ball pitcher. What happens when you have a ground ball pitcher and bad defense? So, like I said, I think it's the end of the it's the ends of that rotation that worries me with Philly. So, I said they're like 2 or 3 moves away from being a solid team. If they brought in a guy like a Kevin Pillar to patrol center, or
Kevin Kiermaier.
I did not want them to bring back Herrera. I was like, why?
And not to mention this too, to add to it, because obviously we did change up the coaching staff a little bit since we fired Joe Dillon, and who was our previous? I forgot who our previous infield coach was, because he used to play for the organization back in I think 2010 when who was the? I can't think of his damn name. It's really off the top of my head, but we did it obviously once we got rid because. And then we brought in because I always looked at some of this bit of the analytics when we had Bobby Dickerson. Our defense wasn't as bad as it was the last couple of years, but when Bobby Dickerson left, our defense kind of just went downhill. So I think
we did bring Kevin Long as a hitting coach. Maybe
that is true. That is very true. Obviously, he did have. I think he did have ties. I know he ties to Schwarber. I think he also had ties with Harper too. I might be wrong on that. But yeah, so we did kind of make adjustments to our coaching staff. And let's be real, our scouting department was absolutely garbage. So the fact that Dombrowski first, addressed our scouting issues, I kind of applaud to that, because we could not scout worth that goddamn. We could not scout worth a damn.
Dante over there laughing.
Yep.
Hey, I remember that year when y'all traded Ken Giles to the Astros.
Mm-hmm.
He won a World Series, but he was flat out garbage, though. He was flat out goddamn garbage with us, man. It was Allen's, man. He used to blow games. He used to punch himself in the face. Quit pitching this goddamn dude, man. I was like, that dude was straight up garbage, bro, when he was with us, man. But hey, he got a World Series about him. He was straight up garbage with us.
And kind of finish it off. I mean, I did see a couple signings earlier that Matt Carpenter is now joining the Texas Rangers on a minor league deal so he's coming to Texas and after leaving St. Louis. So I'm interested. That's very intriguing for a guy like Matt Carpenter to leave St. Louis to go to some like Texas. So I want to kind of Hayden, I want to kind of get your thoughts on that.
One more little thing. And then 4th place, I have the Marlins, actually. I think the Marlins could definitely be, young athletic team. They have a solid rotation. That's
absolutely.
5th, I have the Nationals.
It never fails. Freaking Sandy, always don't have him pitch because he kills us every time.
And not to mention they're going to have Soler as their DH, which that's going to be a pain in the ass too at the same time.
Marlins have some young talent. I mean, I don't know if you guys are into the farm and prospects.
All I know is they have one of ours as 6'2" goddamn Sanchez, but it was a sacrifice we had to make.
And then 5th place, I think, is the Nationals. You have Soto. I mean, they brought in Nelson Cruz to DH. They'll probably trade him at the deadline. I mean, Strasburg should be coming back from injury, so we'll see.
It's a huge question mark with that. And not to mention, too, like, obviously, that can also surround to that could work. So, that is true. They have, I think it's, I feel like just the Marlins is one of those teams that has our number, and for the Mets, the Mets too. But I think you guys, but not to be disrespectful, but Chase Utley still owns y'all's ass. I can just say that. But I'll
ruined an innocent shortstop's career, though. Like he ruined
that. I hated that. I'll say that.
Was screwed up. Yeah,
I hated that. And look, I look with Chase Utley. Yes, I like his hard playing style, but that was a little bit too of an extreme. That I'll say that. But I do like what the Mets have done. I know it kind of makes us a lot of this NL East shows, but now I want to, kind of a tangent, but I want to get your thoughts on Matt Carpenter signing a minor league contract with the Texas Rangers after spending the majority of his career with St. Louis.
I think Matt Carpenter could be a reliable bat. I mean, this guy, St. Louis, I remember when this guy was really, really good in St. Louis when he used to have 20 home run seasons. I think Matt Carpenter will be a huge boost for that Texas Rangers team. And I think they can compete for a wild card spot. I think they will be in it to be in a wild card spot. I think they will be, though that's my surprise team in the American League. It's the Rangers. Them getting, Seager, who's pretty good, Marcus Semien, Brad Miller, getting Matt and adding Matt Carpenter, guy who can hit. He probably strike out a lot, but Matt Carpenter is a pretty reliable bat as well. So I like the Rangers as a wild card.
Especially, man, they got a good future. I mean, probably the fact that they took Leiter number 2 overall. I mean, which is crazy because in my mock draft that I've done, I had Leiter as my number 1. Him and Rocker were my number 1 and 2. But the fact that Pittsburgh went with the catcher number 1 overall, which didn't make any sense to me, but I kind of feel like that draft was kind of surrounded with Leiter and Kumar Rocker, which, let's be real, I think Leiter has potential because obviously, unlike us, we had had his uncle, if I'm mistaken. Oh God, I don't know how the Leiter family. No, we had Mark Leiter Jr. We had him for like about a year, and that never panned out for us, and that was just completely garbage. But yeah, like, and that's the thing too, like the fact what they're doing. Are they going to make the postseason? Probably, in the most likely the wild card. But if you look at like 5-10 years down the road, I mean, you got Jack Leiter and some probably their top prospects. I would not be shocked if they'll make a push for the division. I think that's another team I feel like that could give the Astros trouble going down the road. But I don't think they're just ready just yet because obviously they're still a young team. Obviously with Seager, Simeon, I think that pitching staff's okay. I just feel like they just need to work on that, and especially I think it's the back end of my honest opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nothing that crazy. Them bringing in Carpenter, he's not what he used to be. It's not like his 2013, 2012 self with the Cardinals anymore. I think it's okay, whatever, minor solid move for the Rangers. It's not really a win-loss. I mean, he's a utility guy, so, maybe if they want to throw him at first or, I mean, if Simeon needs a day off or if there's an injury or, DH or something, be a bench bat. I mean, like I said, he's not what he used to be. I mean, coming off, looking at his stats, 65 OPS plus last season. I mean, a wins above replacement of -1. If you want to get basic, 169 average. I mean, there's really nothing much crazy about it. I mean, I know 3-time All-Star, Silver Slugger, but honestly, I think that's kind of in the past, in my opinion. But, I mean, solid, I guess, move, nothing crazy.
But yeah, I mean, so far I think we are at the end of it. So Hayden, I would really like to appreciate you guys coming on the show for the very first edition. Well, technically the 4th episode of the show, since pretty much this show is pretty much been dead because of the damn lockout.
Oh no more between. This is only like our 4th show.
This is on episode 4.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I thought we had a good conversation, especially how this all season went, kind of the moves. Obviously, I like Dante's idea of the predictions, which I think that should be like a whole new kind of like a segment going through, for the next years down the road. But yeah, for those who don't want to check out I dropped Hayden's link in the description down below. Go check him out.
Welcome to come back anytime.
And if you're ever interested in joining the Spotlight Sports Network, you're more than welcome to hit up Coach Spotlight. If you're pretty much, because we need like somebody who's a heavy analytical guy in the group. So, but with that being out of the way, this is obviously me Robert from the Philly Sports Talk Podcast. My co-host Dante, Key, and Hayden. We will see you guys in the next one.
Bye.
Damn it! No word.
You can't find it, can you?
There it is.